The scene continues with a teacher slamming the table with full force, declaring that this was an unprecedented situation and addressing the principal with urgency. The principal appeared visibly worried as he examined a letter and remarked that suspicion had once again fallen on that particular student. As he spoke, another teacher at the back commented that it was a disgrace to the school. The principal then asked the MC's class teacher, Fujiro-sensei, whether she had noticed anything unusual, to which she replied that she had observed nothing out of the ordinary. Other teachers supported this, stating that as supervisors they had not detected anything suspicious, and that it would be difficult to conceal something on such a large scale. It was then revealed that everything had started because of a single anonymous letter claiming that Class 1B was cheating in an organized manner. One teacher pointed out that Class B's average scores had been significantly higher, while another argued that there was no evidence and suggested it could simply be jealousy. A different teacher questioned who the ringleader might be, and someone responded that it was probably MC, which immediately irritated Fujiro. Some of the more reckless teachers grew agitated and suggested calling him in to solve problems under strict supervision in order to expose him. This approach bordered on a clear violation, and when combined with the issue of slander, it could even justify formal punishment under the rules. Unable to tolerate such baseless talk any longer, Fujiro firmly stated that this was unacceptable, reminding everyone that all supervisors had confirmed there was nothing suspicious during the exam. Another teacher, Sanjuji, supported her stance, saying she also opposed punishing anyone without evidence and questioned the point of adults acting so shortly. However, one teacher argued that the mere existence of such a letter was already a problem and that they could not allow it to bring further trouble to the school. Others remarked that this attitude was unlike Sanjuji and insisted that it was their duty to provide proper guidance. In response, she sharply questioned where the legitimacy in their reasoning even lay. At that moment, the principal intervened, asking her to calm down before presenting his decision. He informed Fujiro that during the next test, Class B would undergo strict inspection of their belongings and that 2 supervisors would be assigned, asking whether she had any objections. Though reluctant, she stated that she had none. He further added that Class A would handle the inspection duty, which left her shocked. Continuing, the principal explained that they could not inform other teachers about the matter, as their loyalty to the school was too strong, and as alumni, they would not be able to ignore it. Fujiro attempted to protest and asked him to wait, but the elderly principal slowly sat down and explained that there were many excellent students in Class B, and he was concerned about the negative impact this situation might have on them, stating that he could not simply leave a rotten apple among them. This remark angered Fujiro, and she demanded to know if he was serious, but the principal responded by warning her to be extremely careful not to further damage the school's reputation. As the principal finished speaking, he immediately shifted to the next topic, leaving Fujiro-sensei standing there helpless, unable to do anything for her students. Later, the scene moves to a bar where Fujiro and Sanjuji sit together, and Fujiro vents her frustration by saying that the principal had called her student a rotten apple. Overcome with anger, she slammed her jug of beer and shouted that she would not tolerate such nonsense from those old fools. Sanjuji tried to calm her down, gently advising her to avoid drinking too much, and Fujiro apologized, admitting that the situation had also put Sanjuji in a difficult position. However, Sanjuji reassured her that she did not mind and believed that someday the others would understand, though by then it might already be too late. Clearly disappointed in the other teachers, she remarked that they were foolish to the core, which made Fujiro begin to see her in a new light. Sanjuji then admitted, somewhat embarrassed, that she herself had once been on the same side as those narrow-minded teachers and might have joined in the criticism back then. Hearing this, Fujiro expressed her wish to hear her story someday, and Sanjuji agreed, mentioning that a fortune she had received during the first shrine visit of the year had predicted a turning point in her life. Although she had doubted it at first, she now felt that the moment had finally arrived. Fujiro smiled at this and commented that it sounded like something out of a love horoscope, to which Sanjuji responded with a smile, acknowledging that it might indeed be true, as she felt that the person she was meant to meet had appeared at the end of her long escape, making her believe it was fate. Closing her eyes, She reflected on how unexpected everything had been and felt grateful for being given another chance, even thinking of another woman who would likely feel the same. She then told Fujiro that no matter what happened in the future, she should simply trust her students and everything would turn out fine, which surprised Fujiro. With a soft smile, Fujiro admitted that she might have misunderstood her, addressing her respectfully, while Sanjuji lightly joked that despite her age she was still unmarried and returned home only to the comfort of her dog, calling herself a lonely woman. This remark triggered Fujiro's outrage, as she angrily questioned what was wrong with men to leave such a good woman alone, causing Sanjuji to laugh. She encouraged Fujiro to cheer up, gently patting her back and suggesting that perhaps her destined encounter was already in motion, saying this with a blush and a smile. The next day at school, someone was seen apologizing to the MC regarding Erika and asking to play shogi again. And after the person left, Mio pointed out that the MC seemed to know far too many people. The MC casually replied that this was normal and went on to mention that Heron's formula was useful when dealing with irregular forms, which left Kuki confused as he pointed out that they were not discussing facial surface area. Mio then questioned why the MC knew the captain of the Go Club, and the MC explained that he had been giving romantic advice after being introduced by a passionate senior. Mio challenged how he could still call himself a loner, but the MC responded that he simply would not understand, as he was a cheerful and handsome guy. Suddenly, the MC stood up and declared that he would show him reality, warning him not to be shocked when he realized how much of a loner he truly was. And he went on to explain that in the mornings he went to school with Yurisen, while during lunch he either spent time admiring his so-called godlike senior or found himself caught between Hinagi and Shiori in the classroom. He continued by adding that there was even a chance the student council president might appear, and after school it was always time for club activities, while even beyond that he was constantly being pulled into something by someone. At home, his mother and sister would overwhelm him by invading his personal space, and the moment he stepped outside, Haimyama would inevitably find him. As he listed all of this out loud, he suddenly realized the contradiction in his own words and shouted in frustration, questioning in what way he could possibly be considered a loner, while Mio yelled back that this was exactly what he had been asking all along. At that moment, someone approached from behind and remarked that he had not changed at all, revealing himself to be Mikuriya Seidu, who then asked if they could have dinner together sometime since his mother wanted to see him again. The MC responded by confirming whether that included his mother as well, and with a gentle expression, Seidu replied that despite everything, they were still a family. The MC told him to call on a day that suited him, and after thanking him, Seidu returned to his seat. Watching him, Mio observed that he had become much more cheerful, and the MC admitted that there had been a time when he truly did not know how things would turn out. It was then revealed that Seidu's mother had been involved in a secret affair for 5 years with a man who was also married, making it a clear case of mutual infidelity, and the illusion of a detached adult relationship had eventually collapsed under reality. When Seidu's father discovered the truth, he began to doubt whether Seidu was even his child, something Seidu overheard, leaving him frightened and deeply shaken as he fell into depression. Although his father later realized his mistake and apologized, the damage had already been done, and during that period Seidu endured everything in silence, visibly worn down to anyone who saw him. When he finally reached his limit, it was MC who reached out, perhaps because he himself had grown up with a single parent and could understand his pain, and regardless of the reason, Seidu needed someone to rely on. His mother, burdened by guilt, felt unable to face him, while his father was equally tormented by remorse, and MC took on the role of mediator by frequently visiting their home, listening to the parents' feelings and conveying them to Seidu, then listening to Seidu and relaying his thoughts back to them. Although the divorce ultimately proceeded, Seidu's father chose not to demand alimony from his ex-wife, instead making her promise to work and compensate the spouse of her affair partner, with the possibility of reconsidering their relationship in the future. Seidu's mother had lost the confidence to act as a parent, believing that after committing such actions, she had no right to speak about morals or guidance. Yet even so, This resolution managed to preserve Seidu's spirit, something that would not have been possible without MC's involvement. As Mio reflected on all of this, he smiled and remarked that MC was truly an incredible person, which caught the MC off guard, prompting him to glance at his reflection and jokingly wonder if his face was really that amazing. And honestly, that is exactly the kind of delusional self-love you, random viewer, need to carry into your morning, but all that aside. Seeing this only made Mio more irritated as he told him that he was not talking about his face at all. The scene then shifts to Fujiro-sensei bowing deeply before the class, apologizing and admitting that it was her failure for not being able to protect them. But the students immediately responded that they had not cheated and had simply done their best on the test. One student questioned why the MC was the only one being blamed and wondered if this was what those circumstances had been leading to, while Fujiro, clearly frustrated, explained that the matter had already been discussed in the staff meeting, but no one truly believed it, which was why she had not intended to tell them. The MC grew serious as he recalled the post he had made earlier, realizing that things were already chaotic because of his self-created controversy. And now this situation was only making it worse, like adding fuel to the fire. Yet in the very next moment he smiled to himself, amused at the thought that this was just another chapter being added to the so-called legend of MC as a villain. Even thinking that some kind stranger seemed to be helping him maintain his gloomy loner persona and silently encouraging them to keep it up. Kana then asked if this situation was the reason behind the sudden changes in class inspections, and Fujiro confirmed it, expressing her anger as she questioned why her students were the ones being blamed when every supervisor had reported nothing suspicious. And now that the issue had become public, even the principal appeared to be panicking, which she felt was only fair. As she turned, the MC approached her, while she continued venting her anger, stating that she could never forgive the principal for calling one of her students a rotten apple. But suddenly, the MC dropped to his knees and apologized sincerely, shocking both Fujiro and Kana, as he insisted that he was the one responsible for causing trouble and needed to make amends. Mio, confused, pointed out that he had not actually done anything, but MC suddenly proposed that perhaps the best solution would be for him to quit school altogether, reasoning that if he left, Fujiro would no longer face criticism, and his classmates would be judged fairly, making it a perfect solution where everyone wins, even jokingly adding that he might as well leave home too, since his mother would probably agree, and he could go live on a remote island growing mandarins. However, this idea was immediately challenged when Hinagi declared that if that were the case, she would quit school as well, leaving MC confused as he told her that was a ridiculous idea, and that there was no way Akan would allow it, only for Shiori to join in with a smile, saying that she would quit too so they could all grow mandarins together, which only deepened his confusion as he questioned what they were even talking about, and as Hinagi stepped closer. She reminded him that she had come to this school specifically because of him, implying that if MC were no longer there, then there would be no reason for her to stay either. Admitting that it might sound cowardly, Hinagi confessed that she would keep saying it over and over again because she truly loved him, and as she spoke, she gently placed her hand over his, holding it firmly while expressing her desire to stay by his side. Hearing this, MC urged them to think about their futures, questioning what would become of them if they followed through with such decisions. But Shiori countered by asking what his own future looked like, and where he expected to find happiness, a question that caught him off guard as he realized he had never truly considered it, being so consumed with surviving the present that happiness felt like nothing more than an unrealistic dream. And with a hollow expression, he admitted that perhaps he would simply end up collapsing and fading away somewhere. The girls immediately rejected that idea, refusing to accept such a future as they both grabbed his hands with determination, insisting that they would never allow things to turn out that way. At that moment, Mio appeared from behind and declared that he had lost this time, teasing him as a playboy while adding that he would also quit school, joking that knowing him, he would probably end up creating a new variety of mandarin oranges and cause a huge uproar, which honestly sounded more exciting. Mio pointed out that if all four of them quit at once, it would create serious trouble for their teacher. But unexpectedly, Fujiro-sensei calmly stated that he did not need to worry, as she herself intended to resign as well, leaving MC completely stunned. He began running around the classroom in disbelief, repeatedly insisting that the situation was strange and asking everyone if they thought so too, while the rest of the class simply smiled and laughed at his reaction. As he stood there confused, Hinagi reassured the teacher that everything would be fine and that MC would definitely resolve the situation, reminding him that he was not alone. And as the classmates' supportive smiles filled the room, she made it clear that he would face everything together with them. In that moment, MC reflected on both Shiori and Hinagi, realizing how much they had changed since the time they were first reunited, and recalling Mio's words, he began to feel that he was the only one who had failed to grow. Suddenly, Mio became fired up, declaring that he finally understood, and with a sharp, almost menacing expression, he proposed that they should make it clear that forcing their teacher to bow her head would not come without consequences, a statement that immediately made Fujiro uneasy about what he was planning to do next. The scene continues with a lively woman stepping forward to welcome everyone, energetically announcing that it was finally time and urging the crowd to get excited, as it was revealed that she was hosting a quiz show. She greeted both the audience and participants, introducing the event as the Shoyo Town Quiz Tournament, now being broadcast live on Teleshoyo. Among the participants, someone remarked that it was rare to see MC looking so exhausted, to which he casually replied that he had been reviewing the Gosabai Shikimoku, prompting Mio to comment that while it sounded like he had been studying seriously, there was no way that was the real reason. Internally, MC reflected that in his household, what should have been motherly affection often turned into something more like temptation and seduction, a situation that even Hojo Yasutoki would have found awkward enough to laugh off. Meanwhile, the host enthusiastically introduced the teams, starting with the trio from Class 1B, humorously calling them the fun-loving first-year team cheating champs, while jokingly reminding them that cheating was against the rules, before moving on to introduce the next group as the senior citizen team, Old Man Homer, encouraging them to demonstrate their years of wisdom and experience. As this went on, Shakato appeared slightly anxious and quietly asked MC if it was really okay for her to be there, but he reassured her that she was actually a key part of their plan, and that he would rely on her if any reptile-related questions came up, making her laugh as she said he could leave it to her, though she doubted she would get the chance to shine. Confidently, she added that unless a quiz champion suddenly appeared, they had this victory secured. Soon after, the results were announced, declaring Class 1B's team cheating champs as the winners, and as the trio celebrated in the background, the host handed MC the microphone, congratulating him and asking how it felt to win. Ignoring the question, MC instead revealed that there was a reason behind their team name, explaining that although their entire class had performed exceptionally well in the last test, they had been falsely accused of cheating and were now being treated unfairly. He continued by stating that only their homeroom teacher, Fujiro-sensei, and Sanjuji had believed in them, adding that he still could not understand why the principal and others would take actions that tarnished the school's reputation. The audience grew confused upon hearing this, while MC looked directly into the camera with a serious expression and declared that their participation in the quiz tournament was meant to prove their innocence. Shakato then expressed that they felt hurt being suspected despite being innocent, and Mio quickly grabbed the microphone, bluntly demanding that the principal stop this and insisting that they were not cheating, though his stiff delivery made it obvious he was not good at acting, something MC internally noted. The host, now both confused and concerned, acknowledged the situation and remarked that this was the story behind everything, thanking them for sharing it, and the scene then shifted to the trio sitting on a bench afterward, drinking juice and complaining about the heat, where Mio casually suggested that he might as well wear his school jacket to make it obvious that they were from Shuku High School. MC told Mio that there was no need to make it that obvious, but Shakato questioned whether that was not exactly what they were aiming for, prompting MC to smile as he told them to think carefully about who was the angriest right now and what the school wanted to avoid the most, explaining that even if they did nothing, the situation would resolve itself naturally. Understanding his point, Shakato nodded along, though she soon looked uneasy as she admitted that her mother was extremely angry, which made Mio realize why things felt so tense, even saying he was starting to feel sorry for the school, while MC calmly remarked that people would simply reap what they saw. As he sipped his juice, MC teasingly asked whether the so-called refreshing and handsome guy would be joining them, making Mio blush as he admitted that he had told his mother about it, and she had gotten overly excited, which he found a bit embarrassing. MC then explained that the same seemed to be true for their classmates, as many of their parents were planning to attend as well, and Shakato added that her mother had likely intended to come from the very beginning. When Mio asked MC whether his own mother would be coming, he visibly tensed up, quickly avoiding the question by claiming he had a headache before pretending to fall asleep on the table. Later, the scene shifts to MC speaking to his aunt, offering her something while insisting it was nothing special, but she smiled warmly and told him that he did not need to be so considerate all the time, to which he replied that he could not simply ignore such things. As he gently petted a rabbit nearby, she observed that even Frederick too seemed to have taken a liking to him, jokingly asking whether animals had always been fond of him, leaving MC unsure as he wondered if that might actually be the case. She playfully suggested that he must have been an animal tamer in a past life and asked if he liked rabbits. And as he held one up, he admitted that he found them adorable, even pointing out that his name included the character for rabbit, which amused her enough to jokingly declare that she would order a reverse bunny girl outfit. Confused, MC looked it up on his phone, only to fall completely silent upon seeing the result, immediately panicking as he urged her to wait and talk things through calmly. But she countered by saying that even in international politics, talking rarely solved anything, leaving him with no choice but to reluctantly agree as she went ahead and placed the order. Shocked, MC could only sit there in distress, wondering what she intended to do with it, and when he asked who would wear it, she casually answered that she would, prompting him to attempt an escape, only for her to grab him by the collar and question whether he really thought he could get away. It was then revealed that MC had originally come to Setsukasen's apartment to invite her to attend the class observation, and she happily thanked him for the invitation, promising that she would dress nicely for the occasion, which led MC to tell her not to overdo it since she already looked stunning as she was, a compliment that left her both embarrassed and delighted. The scene continues as MC explains the recent changes in his mother's behavior to Satsuka, leaving her puzzled as she questions whether her sister had really decided to change her ways and wonders what could have caused such a sudden shift. MC, trying to make sense of it, briefly panics and jokingly considers the absurd possibility that his mother might have been a robot all along, though Satsuka dismisses that idea, pointing out that this was clearly not what changing one's ways meant. Choosing not to bring up his sister, whom he already considered strange enough, MC admits that he is genuinely concerned about his mother, and when Satsuka presses him to explain what exactly seemed off, he struggles to put it into words, internally recalling that while he initially thought she was simply worried about being ill, she had actually appeared more radiant than ever, even going as far as to awkwardly describe her as somewhat attractive. Which immediately shocks Satsuka and makes him realize he has said something unnecessary again, prompting him to quickly clarify that what he meant was that she had talked about starting over as a mother. Satsuka questions whether something like that can even be redone, and, without hesitation, decides to call her sister, explaining over the phone that she had decided to attend the parent-teacher meeting because MC had asked her to, though her tone soon turns confused and frustrated as she questions what her sister means by saying such things after all this time, and demands to know what she meant by starting over as a mother. Eventually growing angry enough to abruptly end the call and declare that she is coming over immediately. Shortly after, MC and Satsuka leave together and head toward his house, and on the way, she asks if anything significant has happened recently, to which he responds with a troubled expression, admitting that he has recently reunited with people he never expected to see again, received a genuine confession, dealt with a neighbor acting strangely affectionate toward him, and noticed odd behavior from both his mother and sister, with his sister becoming unusually touchy. While also being falsely accused of groping, getting rescued by someone, suffering a bicycle accident, and even attending a mixer with those same people, realizing as he lists it all that his life has been far more chaotic than he initially thought. As he reflects on everything, he glances at Satsuka and notices her shocked and worried expression, and though she asks him something in response, her exact words are left unclear, before the scene shifts to them arriving at his house, where Satsuka immediately confronts her sister, accusing her of always thinking only about herself, while his mother desperately pleads that she is running out of time. Watching the argument unfold, MC is overwhelmed with guilt, believing that the conflict is happening because of him just as it had in the past, and as painful memories resurface, he begins to think that if he had never existed, none of this would have happened and they would not have grown apart. Though as he reflects on his past experiences with the other girls, he realizes that those moments never brought him the same kind of sadness. What remained within MC was nothing but quiet resignation, something he had long ago convinced himself was acceptable. Perhaps because on the day he reached out and took Satsuka's hand, he had already endured more grief than a single heart should ever bear. As sorrow consumed everything in that moment, and from that day onward, he found himself unable to cry. Suddenly, Satsuka extended her hand toward him, warning that something terrible might happen if he stayed there, and though he hesitated, he slowly reached out to take it, only for his mother to rush in from behind and cling to him desperately, refusing to let him go as she tightly held onto him and insisted that not even Satsuka could take him away anymore. With tears in her eyes, she confessed that she loved him and needed him, words that stunned MC as he began to question whether he was truly needed by his own mother, while she continued, admitting that she did not expect forgiveness and was willing to be hated for the rest of her life if that was the price. Yet she could not bear the thought of continuing on without ever expressing how she truly felt. Grasping his face and pulling him closer, she told him that she simply wanted him to understand how much he meant to her and how deeply she loved him, leaving MC confused as he nervously questioned why her face was getting closer and closer, only for her to suddenly kiss him, an action that shocked Satsuka, who immediately demanded to know what she was doing before forcefully pushing her away and warning that MC might collapse if this continued. Still shaken and bewildered, MC could only think that he had almost died, while his mother, now serious, declared that she meant every word and was more serious about this than anyone else, even Satsuka. A statement that left Satsuka stunned before her frustration boiled over as she angrily shouted that her mother had a lot of nerve to say such things now, and declared that she refused to lose, especially to her, leading to a tense standoff as the two women glared at each other. While MC lay there in his mother's lap, wondering when exactly everything had turned into such a bizarre conflict. Meanwhile, despite the controversy caused by his statements during the quiz show, MC's exaggerated accusations failed to gain real traction, and his attempt to stir things up publicly did not unfold as dramatically as he had expected. Yet elsewhere, the principal sat visibly shaken as he stared at a report, questioning how things had escalated to this point, while Fujiro-sensei explained that even the students themselves had not fully understood the situation until the very end. The principal admitted that he had been convinced they were innocent all along, and as he reviewed the data, he realized that although only a small portion of parents usually attended class observation day, this time nearly all of them had shown up, prompting a sudden realization that this outcome had been MC's true objective from the very beginning, not a reckless outburst, but a carefully calculated plan that precisely targeted the school's weaknesses. At that moment, Sanjuji added that she had heard many parents were furious, which only deepened the principal's anxiety, while she quietly signaled to Fujiro with a wink, making it clear that she was deliberately supporting her. Fujiro-sensei allowed herself a faint smile as she reflected that such a high turnout was normally something to celebrate, yet given the timing, it was impossible to see it as a coincidence, especially since the parents had come forward with direct and unmistakable complaints against the school. And while criticism from a few could be dismissed, this overwhelming response left no room for the administration to proceed as usual. She never imagined a day would come when MC would end up protecting her in such a way. And as concern crossed her face, she realized that even the Mikuriya Seidu family had attended, something that reminded her of how helpless she had felt before despite worrying about him. Whereas now, to them, MC was nothing short of a savior, and she suspected that families like Suzukiwas and Kamashiros likely felt the same, meaning that anyone who tried to harm him would inevitably face their unyielding anger. Thinking further, she recalled how Suma had been noticeably more cheerful lately, and even heard that MC had been offering advice on relationships, which made her smile as she quietly admitted that he was beginning to act more like a teacher than she was. Meanwhile, the principal, visibly tense, instructed her to ensure that the parents did not misunderstand the situation, relying on her to calm things down and convince them that there had been no ill intent or disrespect toward the students, to which Fujiro agreed, though she soon added with a troubled expression that there was a possibility she might not be able to manage it alone, and would therefore be counting on his support if that happened. This response clearly unsettled the principal, who anxiously scratched his thinning head, while Fujiro, with a subtle grin, mockingly thought that he should be prepared to lose sleep over it. At that moment, the telephone rang, and Sanjuji picked it up, informing the principal that the call was for him, and as he answered and addressed the caller as To-sensei, Fujiro was caught off guard. During the conversation, he confirmed that the students in question were indeed registered at their school, and admitted that there had been several issues involving them, before agreeing to the other party's request. After hanging up, he let out a deep sigh and immediately asked Fujiro to call MC over, and as MC was seen interacting with his classmates and helping them, the principal's decision echoed over the scene, declaring that MC would be suspended from school for 1 week.